Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are previewing Week 2 in the NFL preseason with Joe Duffy, who, of course, went 10-4 against the spread in Week 1 preseason. And if you're a regular viewer, you are very excited to hear all of Joe Duffy's opinions on all these Week 2 preseason games that he's very generously covering with us. Joe Duffy, thanks for being back with us.
All right, thank you, Peter.
All right, we're going to get to Miami and Tampa Bay, and this is interesting because I'm going to quote you some historical trends that just to hear what your opinion is on them. They're pretty strong. Before we get to that, give a quick plug for offshoreinsiders.com. Tell everyone how well you've been doing and for such a long time.
Yeah, no, and we entered this weekend hitting 6 of 8 in NFL preseason. And one of the reasons, I think I mentioned it in one or two other videos, people might notice if they've been watching my videos for a year, I'm looking down a lot more at my notes in the preseason than I do in the regular season because there's so many subtleties, there's so many nuggets to dig out that really make the difference in preseason football as opposed to any other sport where I can maybe handicap a little bit off of my knowledge, etc. But in the preseason, you really got to dig deep for those notes, and that's why we continue to win year in and year out at offshoreinsiders.com, but 27 total years in the business.
All right, Joe, interesting situation here. Tampa Bay is a 2-point favorite, and that line has been bet up a little bit. They opened at -1, I think, a few days ago. Total is 37, and both these teams lost their Week 1 games by identical scores, 16-10, so they both lost, and they were both very low scoring. And for some reason, I'm not sure if this is significant or not, but for some reason, preseason games between Miami and Tampa Bay have been extreme under-trenders. The under is 16-2 in their last 18 preseason games, which is an amazing number. And considering how their Week 1 games went, and the total is 37, you might be leaning that way again. Tampa's also 8-2-1 against the spread in their last 11 preseason games against Miami. How much emphasis would you put on some kind of stat like that?
No, I mean, there's where it gets to the point of it being statistically overwhelming. We do use systems, which are different than trends, and systems, we've coded some of them here. Like, for example, when teams scored less than 14 points in their previous game, they're generally an underplay. Systems are more, they're not team-specific. They just apply to the league in general, and there's usually more games involved than we do believe in them, number one, because we've seen them work. But number two, I believe it is a way to measure both the tendencies of not only how teams will make adjustments, but also how the public will make adjustments and the odds makers do so accordingly, etc. So, but still, a 16-2 statistic is interesting, but I'm not a huge trend guy, especially when it comes to preseason.
All right, but total's still 37, and then if you look at how their two Week 1 games went, that looks to bolster a play on the under as well, right?
Yeah, no, I am actually going to go with the under.
Okay.
Having a 16-2 statistic corroborated is a nice bonus. But anyone who's watched, my videos, they know I'm not a huge fan of the Miami quarterbacking situation. I realized Tannehill was tremendous last week, but going, 6 for 6? I mean, that's not exactly something where I'd all of a sudden say that he has finally arrived. Their backup quarterback situation is a little bit of a mess. They have some guys battling for it because Matt Moore has played pretty poorly in the preseason. So, whether or not they truly have a stud starting quarterback is open to debate. Now, admittedly, the thing that does make me nervous, Miami is very deep at the wide receiver position. That's why I'm not madly in love with the total, but I still think it is the better play on this game. And in the name of equal time, Tampa is pretty thinned at defensive back with a bunch of injuries. They got Jenkins, Melvin Lewis. All these guys have just practiced this week, and they could be thinned out. But the key is coaches don't exploit weaknesses. They really do whatever they need to do to get ready for the regular season. It's not like they go and they attack weaknesses in the preseason. But still, the fact they don't have a lot of depth there concerns me. But at the end of the day, Tampa Bay's offensive line has looked very poorly in camp, and they've looked poorly so far in the preseason. Tampa's defense has actually dominated their offense for the most part in the practices. So we do agree that it is on the under, even though that's a fairly low total even for a preseason. Still, the under is the play here.
Okay, sounds good to me. Joe Duffy from offshoreinsiders.com. Thanks.